Mandatory parameters must occur before optional parameters in both the method declaration and the method call. The exception is with params arguments, which still always comes last. Named arguments. Rather than identifying an argument by position, you can identify an argument by name. X, method name, parameter 1, 12, parameter 3, 14, parameter 2, 7. Named arguments can occur in any order. You can mix named and positional arguments, foo1, y2. However, there is a restriction. Positional arguments must come before named arguments. Left-associative operators, binary operators, except for assignment, lambda, and null-coalescing operators, are left-associative. In other words, they are evaluated from left to right. For example, the following expression, 8/4/2 is evaluated as follows. 8/4/2/1. You can insert parentheses to change the actual order of evaluation. 8/4/2/4 right-associative operators. The assignment operators, as well as the lambda, null-coalescing, and conditional operators, are right-associative. In other words, they are evaluated from right to left. Right-associativity allows multiple assignments, such as the following to compile. X equals Y equals 3. This first assigns 3 to Y, and then assigns the result of that expression, 3, to X. Switch expression. See number 8 from C number 8. You can use switch in the context of an expression. The following illustrates its use. Int card number equals system.convertpoint32, console.readline. String card name equals card number switch, 13 equals king, 12 equals queen, 11 equals jack, underscore equals pit card / equivalent to default. Notice that the switch keyword appears after the variable name, and that the case clauses are expressions, terminated by commas, rather than statements. Switch expressions are more compact than their switch statement counterparts, and you can use them in LINQ queries. If you omit the default expression, underscore, and the switch fails to match, an exception is thrown. MS-Build. The Microsoft Build engine is a platform for building applications, not developing. This engine, which is also known as MS-Build, provides an XML schema for a project file that controls how the build platform processes and builds software. Visual Studio uses MS-Build, but MS-Build doesn't depend on Visual Studio. By invoking msbuild.exe on your project or solution file, you can orchestrate and build products in environments where Visual Studio isn't installed. MS-Build is an open-source build tool. Visual Studio uses MS-Build to load and build managed projects. The project files in Visual Studio, .xproj, .vproj, .vexproj, and others, contain MS-Build XML code that executes when you build a project by using the IDE. Vsts. It is the command line tool to run tests. The Visual Studio Test Platform is an open and extensible test platform that enables running tests, collect diagnostics data, and report results. The test platform supports running tests written in various test frameworks and using a pluggable adapter model. Based on user choice, the desired test framework and its corresponding adapter can be acquired as a 6 or as NuGet package as the case may be. Adapters can be written in terms of a public API exposed by the test platform. Vsts.console.exe. You can use the Vsts.console.exe program to run automated unit and coded UI tests from a command line. Vsts.console.exe is optimized for performance and is used in place of msts.exe in Visual Studio 2012. In simple language, it is used to run tests, which are created using a test framework, and that framework's test adapter, which will recognize its tests, or any other test adapter which is capable of identifying the tests. Use this task to run unit and functional tests, Selenium, Appium, coded UI test, and more, using the Visual Studio Test Runner. Other than MS test-based tests, test frameworks that have a Visual Studio Test adapter, such as XUnit, NUnit, Chutzpah, can also be executed. Tests that target the .NET Core framework can be executed by specifying the appropriate target framework value. MSTest, used to run test via command line. C /program files, x86, /Microsoft Visual Studio 12.0 /Common 7 /IDE MSDS.exec /Program Files x86 /Microsoft Visual Studio /2017 /Enterprise /Common 7 /IDE MSDS.exe MS Test v2 is based on .NET Core and is cross-platform. MSDist Adapter and MSDist Framework can be used to give test attributes and identifying test respectively. Migrating from MSDist v1 to v2.1. Remove reference Microsoft.visualstudio.qualitytools.unittestframework2. Add NuGet for MSDist.testFramework and MSDist.adapter. MSDist.framework itself implements the testing frameworks and its contracts. So you need to add a NuGet reference of it in order to write unit test cases and have them compiled. Only compiled projects along with the test adapter can then be consumed by Visual Studio. MSDist.framework has test attributes and asserts, etc. MSDist.adapter, adapter to discover and execute MSDist framework-based test cases. VSDist would call the test adapters based on your project configuration. That's why in unit/xunit/MSDist all ask you to install a test adapter NuGet package to your unit testing projects. So MSDist.testAdapter exists for that purposes. NUnit is a unit testing framework for all .NET languages. NUnit test adapter to run tests based on NUnit framework through Visual Studio.